This is, before it was headlines, it was prophecy. And I'm your host, Katie Elizabeth. I may not have a complete understanding of this. Well, I don't. I'll admit that. But I do have to share what I've come to at this point because I'm hearing more and more things that really are of great concern for all of us. And I need to sound the warning that I understand to this point, and I'm sure there is much more to understand. But with many seeking to return to Torah and ultimately to the land of Israel, I see something coming before that. I've even heard vague dates set for the return of Messiah. Not the day or the hour, of course, because that's in Scripture, but the generality of by such and such a year. I've heard some pretty profound suggestions, and not in the terribly distant future. But that's a loophole, and that's a very dangerous loophole. Besides that, we don't know the day or the hour. So then to just kind of throw a year out there and say, well, that's not the date or the hour, so I'm not misleading anyone, I'm not falsely prophesying, well, okay, still a loophole. Because many of us can see the problems coming, but the reality check is Messiah said there would be tribulation like never before seen. And folks, the reality is it just ain't that bad yet. I mean, it just hasn't come down to what we really need to consider the possibilities are. And I'm not talking gloom and doom here, but by that same token, there's no indication things are going to get better either. Until the beastly government goes into place that promises everybody safety and tranquility and those things that are already mentioned in Scripture. That happens before Messiah's return. And that's where it could be so easy to be deceived because it's what we want to hear. We haven't yet seen the fullness of the riders released on the horses yet. We haven't seen that, and that's just chapter 6. There's 5 chapters between Revelation 6 and Revelation 11 where it talks about the temple and the witnesses. And there's a lot of confusion that, the witnesses are in the great city, the mega city, but Jerusalem is always called the holy city. So we've got a lot of presumption in that area too, that we need to be careful. Most of what is being taught and discussed for end time observances are really based on tradition and man-made doctrine. I can remember even hearing way back when that, the book of the Revelation is all out of order and out of sequence. What if it isn't? What if it isn't? Why would it be? Nothing else is out of sequence. It's either prophesied or fulfilled or not yet fulfilled. But the Bible really doesn't seem that out of chronological order when it isn't like it just jumbles up all the kings or anything. So anyway, back to the presumption. We don't want to presume anything about the prophecies that were spoken. Now, I already mentioned, 5 chapters between the Revelation 6 and Revelation 11. Then we have the Revelation 13 that speaks of, the beast rising and the mark. But it isn't until the Revelation 19 that we know that Messiah is, the true and faithful. So there's 6 chapters there that are in between also. And we know in 17 and 18, the harlot of Babylon goes up in smoke. So all of those things have not yet been fulfilled to where we see him in the 19th chapter. We need to be aware of this because we're trying to get it all clustered and jumbled together and think, one major pestilence or, a little more of this or that, a little bit more of a problem, and he's on his way back. That isn't what the Revelation indicates. we could be easily deceived by the Antichrist and the false prophet by choosing to put our own dates and our own interpretation of an order out of chronological order. And I am not an expert in eschatology or prophecy. I'm not. But I'm not sure that anyone who considers themselves to be one or who has been considered one, we don't know. There are a number of things that any one of us thought was true 10 years ago that we have since seen otherwise. Or 10 minutes ago. I mean, none of us have all this figured out. And that would be the biggest error any of us could make spiritually, is to take our eyes off of Messiah and put them on our own understanding. Now, I'm not claiming to be one of the two witnesses. I don't think they're here yet, or I don't think we've heard from them yet. But those guys are going to be warning everyone not to go to Israel when the doors get open, because I truly believe the government of the beast is going to open those doors. They're going to call it, making Aliyah. And that's basically elevation. And that's going to appeal to a lot of people. There are a lot of people talking about the return to Israel. But from what I do understand in Scripture, true believers are going to be caught up to meet him. And then as he descends, will be put in place there. Now, I'm not saying that's my understanding at this point. Things will get much worse before he returns. We know that. We can't lead anyone into complacency. And I'm not trying to be a prophet of gloom and doom. I'm simply reminding us all, myself included, that the beastly government is going to make all the same promises we're expecting from Messiah, because the beastly government is going to promise to fulfill all your needs and keep you safe. And all of those things that really, those of us who are called to be set apart, are supposed to be trusting to our Creator. Yud-Heh-Vah-Hey is our banner. He is our healer. He's our righteousness. He's El Shaddai. He's Almighty. And Messiah is the way, the truth, and the life. And we could get it very jumbled up by still clinging to some of our old ideas, or by putting some sort of a year tag on it. Because there's a lot of time frame in between in those chapters. And so far, I haven't heard anyone actually give a confirmation as to why it's just assumed they would be out of chronological order. I haven't heard that. I'm truly thinking that the beastly government's going to be operating out of the third temple before Messiah descends. Now, keep in mind, this is something that I do know. I have heard it and hearing the voice of Yud-Heh-Vah-Hey, and it is confirmed in Scripture. The beast will ascend, will rise up, but Messiah will descend from glory. That is Scripture. And that's our promise. This has been Before It Was Headlines, It Was Prophecy. I'm Katie Elizabeth.